Good morning, darlings. Okay, so today we're going to look a little bit at Fezziwig, and although this comes before the bit of work that we did on Belle, I want you to think carefully about the emotions again and the methods used in this section and the motivations of Dickens. What was he trying to do? So here we've got, why, it's old Fezziwig, bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again. Okay, all the way down to... No, said Scrooge. No, I should just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all. So hopefully you will have read through this again, this section, and you will have been able to highlight key parts, key emotions, and some methods that go with it and stuff like that. Okay, so I just thought I'd give you a couple of pointers because I know you've done the pre-reading, but I thought I'd help. Okay, so we're in purple because I like purple. So why it's old Fezziwig, bless his heart. So yes, originally we've got here the exclamation mark, which signifies joy or surprise here. But then we've got this, bless his heart. This is what we call an imperative. It's an imperative verb. He's telling someone or something else to bless his heart. The repetition of Fezziwig reinforces the joy or the surprise about how happy he is to see Fezziwig and how much he must have cared for him or liked him. It's a nice emotion, isn't it? It demonstrates his appreciation, his love for this character, how much he liked him. Okay, so then we've got a look at all the stuff about what Fezziwig is doing. We've got the fact that he laid down his pen, he looks at the clock, which pointed to the hour 7, rubbing his hands, adjusting his waistcoat, laughed all over himself. So this verb here gives an impression of a jolly sort of man. He's clearly pleasant. He is the exact opposite of Scrooge in the workplace. Scrooge in the workplace is unpleasant, he is miserable, this guy is jolly, he's happy. He laughed all over himself from his shoes to his organ of benevolence. His organ of benevolence means his heart, okay? Benevolent meaning kindly, and so your heart is kind. Called out in a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice. So these adjectives here, oily, rich, and fat, and jovial, they are adjectives. Okay, so when I say, guys, we need to look at methods, these are the kinds of things we need to do. And it's a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice. Now, it's not a triplet, so it's just a list because there are more than 3. It's a list of adjectives which reinforce our initial impression of him, that he is a jolly, happy man. Yo ho there, Ebenezer Dick. Okay, so he's calling to his employees, these apprentices, and he is, doing it nicely. He's not saying, Mr. Cratchit, like Scrooge does. He's a nice guy. So his former self then, a grown man now, came in briskly, which means he's quick about it. And this is a nice word. Instead of, it might be, if it was a negative thing that was going on, it might be hurriedly, it might be speedily, but briskly means that you go for a brisk walk and it's a good thing. Accompanied by his fellow apprentice. And then again, Scrooge here is, bless me, yes, there he is, Dick Wilkins. But he was very much attached to me, was Dick, poor Dick, dear. So he's got fond memories, okay? I'm going to run out of space. Fond memories, bless me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, which means that they were friends. So Scrooge then was capable of warmth, of friendship, of being kind to someone else, being nice to someone else. And this links back to stage 1. where we see
right at the beginning where we say hard and sharp as flint, from which no fire had ever struck generous, from which no spark had ever struck generous fire, and that he was solitary as an oyster. And yes, it's a simile, solitary as an oyster, but if we're thinking that Scrooge is that oyster, then there must be some goodness in him buried deep down somewhere for us to be able to pry open, and that's what the spirits are doing. They're going to pry open Scrooge's outer hard shell to get to the goodness inside him, and this is how they're doing it. They're taking him back to a place where he wasn't this horrible man that he is now, where he was kind and generous and had friends and liked life, where he wasn't grief-stricken, where he had got past some of the issues from previously when he was a child, that he did have and did see the potential of a happy life. He wasn't always miserable. He'd had a bit of time where this role model, Fezziwig, had shown him how to be a nice person, and in this case, a good boss. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve. Let's have the shutters up. Let's do it quickly. So he's a role model for how to be a good boss. That's a G, I promise, guys. That is a G. Good boss, a good employer. Yeah, this is how to be. He's essentially the role model for Scrooge about how to be a good boss that Scrooge didn't pay attention to. And at this point in the story, when he's being taken back to this, we end up seeing that he wishes he was more like Fezziwig. Okay, so then we have the description of what's going on, how quickly he wants everything tidied away, and how quickly, so he says clear away, and there was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away. So these people here would have done anything for their boss. So this was a good working relationship, because there was nothing that they wouldn't do for him. Relationship. Sorry, guys. I can't write and talk at the same time. It was done in a minute, so they wanted to work well. They wanted to work quickly. So if you are ever going to be in a position where you are in charge of other people, what messages does this send to us as a reader? Is it better to rule with an iron fist like Scrooge does, or are you going to get much more productive, much more happy workers if you are generous and kind and a decent human being to them and treat them with respect? Wonder which one. So here, not only for us today, but in the Victorian era, this is the motivations for Dickens writing this work. He'd seen the treatment of the workers in the factories, and he'd seen how horribly these people lived, and this was a direct challenge to the readership, the people who owned the factories, saying, look, you will get more you'll catch more flies with honey than you will with vinegar. Be nice to people and they will want to do more for you. They'll want to do their jobs with more pride in themselves, with more responsibility. They'll want to do these things rather than you having to force it out of them. Why don't you treat them with some respect? Why don't you be a decent human being? Okay, so there we've got the description then about the warehouse was snug, which is a lovely adjective, and warm and dry, and this is a direct contrast to Scrooge's office, isn't it? It's a direct contrast to where there is one tiny ember in the fire for Bob Cratchit. Scrooge has got a bigger fire, but his was still small. But it's a direct contrast. He's had this modelled for him, and yet Scrooge has still ended up on Christmas Eve with a dark, damp, dank office that is freezing cold. That his clerk is trying to warm his hands over a candle. This is the challenge. This is what Dickens is trying to say. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop being like Scrooge, and you need to start being like Fezziwig. You need to pay attention to the role models in your life, essentially. So then we have this big description here about how lovely and about how bubbly and what a nice atmosphere it is, and there are all these people who are gathering. And again, this is a contrast to Scrooge, because Scrooge was intending to spend Christmas Day alone. He'd been told that he could come and spend Christmas with his nephew, or that his nephew wanted to wish him a Merry Christmas, and he refused. He said, get out. He said, good morning, good day, get out, bye, see ya. But look at all these people. The message is that with all these people surround you, with a community and family around you, you are going to be happier, because Mr. Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig and the Miss Fezziwigs are beaming and lovable. They're happy, okay? They're happy. And all these people were welcome. The housemaid and her cousin, the baker. So the baker came as well. The cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. So the brother and the milkman came with the cook. It was a big party and everybody was welcome. Okay, direct contrast to Scrooge. Okay, they all came in. It doesn't matter how they came in, whether they were gracefully or not. Some were awkward, some were graceful. Okay. And then they were dancing, and this is what they were doing, you know, they were dancing, they were celebrating being together. Fezziwig was clapping his hands to stop the dance and said, well done. And the fiddler plunged his hot face into a quart of porter, especially provided for that purpose. Fezziwig was looking after everyone. He was catering for everyone, okay? He was providing for everyone. They did a job, they were provided for. Okay, plunge, this verb, which means if you can't plunge yourself into like an inch of water, you plunge yourself into like a deep swimming pool or something. So there is plenty of room for him to, plenty of the porter, plenty of the pot to eat, drink, and all the rest of it. Okay. So there were more dances, more forfeits, dances, there was cake, there was all this good stuff, and look what he's got loads of stuff, all these lists, all these adjectives, it's all fantastic stuff. This is how he's being a role model, okay? And we've got the rest of it. I know you've gone through this, so I'm not going to patronise you by reading it out. So they've danced, they've retired, they've cut, they've lived it up, they've celebrated Christmas, yeah? This is what they've done. So during this whole time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene with his former self. So this is him remembering. And how do we think he feels during this time? So this is where we need to use our emotions wheel and find a couple of emotions that he may be feeling. He may be swept up in it. He may be feeling happier. He may be feeling joyful. He may be feeling surprised. He may be feeling regretful even, because he misses this time. Okay? And then he underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick returned from them, that he remembered the ghost. He remembers where he is and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clear. A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. Small, echoed Scrooge. But he doesn't agree with that. He doesn't agree. Doesn't agree. Oh dear, sorry guys, I can't write this morning. Doesn't agree with that, because he doesn't think it's small at all. He doesn't think it's small. Let's swap back. The spirit signed to him, etc., etc., and let's get on with it. He says, why is it not? He says, and then the spirit challenges him on the idea of money. He says, he has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise? And Scrooge has this realization. He has this realization. Isn't that, said Scrooge, heated by the remark and speaking unconsciously, like his former, not his latter self, so like he was before, not now. It isn't that, spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy. He has the power to make us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome. He has the power in his attitude and the way he treats us to make our life happy or sad, to make our work easy or awful, a pleasure or a toil. So it's nice to do or it's horrible. He has that power. His power lies in his words and his looks and how he treats us. How he treats us. Okay? The happiness he gives us is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. So this is a nice simile down here. I can't spell today at all in the slightest. Sorry, guys. My pen, well, it's not my pen, it's just me being an idiot. This simile down here, the happiness he gives is quite as great as if it costs a fortune. What he's saying there is, yes, he spent some money, but what he's done is created an experience, and it's more than that. It's how he treats us. It's whether or not he's generous and kind to us. It's whether or not he, treats us as humans and makes us feel valued and valuable. Okay? And then the ghost says, what's the matter? And he says, nothing. And he says, something? He says, no, I should just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk, that's all. So he's got some regret about how he's treated Bob Cratchit. I should just be like to say a word or two to my clerk just now. So here we've got, oh gosh, here we've got, sorry guys, here we've got the verb, the modal verb should. Okay, I should like to, I would like to. This is his desire. Okay, I won't go back onto the full screen because I think the screen will go weird if I do, because it did in the other video. Okay, so those are some notes for you guys, and I hope you find this helpful. Stay safe, I'll see you soon.